Nick Underhill of New Orleans Football, the man who I think does the best work. You should sign up for New Orleans Football if you're not signed up. There's a ton of great articles up right now that we'll break down. Nick, what's up, man?
Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, pleasure to have you here. Okay, look, let's just dive right in because you have three new pieces that I really enjoyed up on New Orleans Football right now. First, you talk about the Brees reworking of his contract. So Brees has reworked his contract. Can you explain how he reworked it? And then obviously like what it means for the cap, but what does it mean for Brees and his status going forward?
So here's the thing. If he retires, they would have to, if he retired right now, filed the papers today, they would have to absorb the whole entire cap hit, which, you know, his signing bonus and everything would come under the cap, and they'd have to carry $25 million in dead money, which obviously they're not going to do. So what this does, well, first of all, they want to wait until June 2nd, I believe, for him to file for his retirement, because then if you hit that date, you can take the prorations that are on the books for the signing bonus. So if you sign a signing bonus, it takes it. If it's a 5-year contract, a $20 million signing bonus, you would take a 4-year hit every year across those 5 years. And then when the player gets cut or he gets traded or he retires, if it's in year 3, the final 2 years come up, and then you would have a $12 million hit. So with Brees, the way his contract was structured is that they had some voidable years on the end of his contract, which is a thing they do. They add them on there, and it'll say on the second day of the league year, the last 2 years of this contract void, and it comes up. So they do that to manipulate the cap. And, you know, it's just a way to take those signing bonus hits and spread them out. So Brees had some of that on there. So if he retires on June 2nd, you know, they can take what's on there and split it over 2 years. Okay. I believe it's $22 million. If he retires before that date, that June 1st date, they would have to take the whole hit now. So they want to wait until June 2nd. But what they did with this contract is they took his base salary, which was $25 million, and he agreed to lower that down to $1 million. So if you wait until that June 2nd date, you have to carry the full amount until that date, and then he retires. So you don't get the cap relief until June 2nd. So what he did now allowed them to get cap relief now. If he is retiring, it doesn't really make a difference from his perspective because he's never going to see that $24 million he just gave back. But, you know, so there's two things here. Like, you can look at it and say, oh, well, Brees is going to play for $1 million, which he's never even come close to being willing to do at any point in his career, or this is just a precursor to retirement in step one of, you know, and the second step's coming. You know, I tend to lead towards the second one. I think he kind of basically retired on paper, from my perspective. So I would be shocked if he plays. I feel like this was kind of step one of the inevitable Drew Brees retirement.
And so real quick here, he can announce a retirement but not officially retire till after June 2nd, right?
Yeah.
Like, is that a paperwork thing? Like he can get out there and say, I'm going to retire, but then just wait to make the paperwork official.
So I've been asking this question too, and you know, I do wonder because it kind of feels like they're skirting it a little bit. You know, the hope of the rule. You know, I think the June 2nd thing is kind of in place because it's like a veteran shows up to OTAs and then he retires unexpectedly out of nowhere, and it allows you to kind of like split out the charge so that you can replace a player. You know, with this one, it kind of feels like they're skirting, you know, the rule. Like, you're allowed to do it, but like last year, for instance, they had an agreement in place with Jameis Winston, and there's a certain date in the off-season calendar. If you sign a player after the date, it doesn't count against the comp pick formula. And they were trying to wait until after that date to sign Jameis, and the league found out there was an agreement in place before it. So they still held him to it, and they're going to use Jameis against that comp pick formula, and it's going to offset the loss of AJ Klein probably, so they probably won't get the pick for that. So, you know, being the Saints, I don't think you get away with things that you know, they're going to hold you to the letter of the law. And it's just kind of the way it is. So it will be interesting. It might be a paperwork thing. I think there is a precedent, but then, you know, guys have retired and they wait to officially file it and talk to that date. But with the way they you know, kind of manipulated the cap a little bit, I am curious to see if, you know, we just don't hear anything until June 2nd, or if we, you know, see the league come at them a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I would be surprised if they did, just because, like I said, there is a precedent, but the Saints kind of, change up the rules a little bit on this one. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, we said it yesterday, Nick. The NFL doesn't fabricate things to go after the Saints for, but they do hold them to the strictest interpretation of the rule over some other franchises. Freaking Goodell didn't even have a mask on stage. I don't care about the mask itself. It's the principle of the issue. So we just talked biggest what ifs of the Saints season, Nick. And to me, the biggest what if is what if Quan Alexander never got hurt? What is the status of Quan Alexander going forward? Like, will he be a piece of this defense?
If he is a piece of the team, he's going to have to do it at a significant pay cut. Like, they can't have him on there for, I don't know the exact number. I think it's like $14 million or something like that. You can't pay him that much, period, if he was healthy even. But now that he's coming back from the Achilles tear, I think there's some question on, how effective he'll be. I think it's probably too early in that process to even guess, but his numbers got to come way, way down. Like, he's going to have to sign for, rework it for something close to the minimum and then have a bunch of incentives that he can earn. But I don't see how he comes back at that rate. But you're right. I mean, that what if, I think he was probably one of the more important people on the team. I think his presence showed what they need to do this offseason. I think that rangy linebacker goes to the top of the list. And then I think that was just hammered home even more just watching the Bucs in the Super Bowl with Levante David and Devin White. That combination, just in modern football, you got to have that range at linebacker. And, they got one with Demario Davis, and they just need to find that guy next to him. Quan was the perfect running mate, but, it's just we'll see what he can do this year.
I mean, that is the most disappointing. If Quan never gets hurt, who knows what ends up happening with this season as a whole. So you touched on there, you alluded to, Nick, another great piece that you have up right now in New Orleans Football, where you kind of tried to put yourself in the Saints' shoes, look at the Super Bowl, the lessons learned therein, and then how can you apply those lessons to team building going forward? Certainly the White Levante David combination stands out, especially because, like you said, we saw some of it with Davis and Alexander. What other lessons do you think were kind of shown on last Sunday?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of stuff that the Saints are already doing. In years past, you watch the Super Bowl and you'd be like, they got to do this. And, you see Seattle and, Sean Payton watched Seattle in the Super Bowl and then tried to build his secondary around it. I feel like a lot of the stuff they're doing, they're on the right track. They were so close to being in the Super Bowl. It's just a little bit more on offense and they're there. But, the thing that definitely stands out with Tampa Bay is just their willingness to alter their team around Tom Brady and change their offense early in the season. I think there was a little bit of reluctance, and there was, at some point there was a switch. And, if you watch the Patriots enough, later in the season, you started seeing like plays to Scotty Miller, and it's like, that's a Julian Edelman play. And they were, running the Patriots playbook at a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that's the main thing. Whoever they bring in a quarterback this year, whether it's Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, you just have to build your team, around their identity and kind of give up the Brees stuff and just make sure everything fits and it's tailored. And, Sean's going to do that. And we already saw some of that with Taysom and their quarterback, that they simplified some of the offensive plays. Passing concepts got pared down a little bit. But, I do think that you can go a whole lot further with it once you know that guy's going to be at quarterback every single snap, every single week. And, he's going to do that. Like, look, I mean, with Marcus Davenport, he's not comfortable really rushing with his hand in the dirt, and he allows him, to rush from an upright position. So Sean's always going to do that stuff. I don't think anybody's doing anything right now that's like that far ahead of what the Saints are doing. It is kind of funny, like looking at Tampa and the Saints, like a lot of their identity is coming from the same place. It's just health and circumstance worked out a little bit better for the Bucs, and they end up in the Super Bowl, and the Saints don't.
Talking to Nick Underhill at Nick_Underhill on Twitter. Go to New Orleans Football. Sign up today. Trust me when I say, if you're a Saints fan, it is like the best stuff. Critically thought out, very interesting angles, great insight into the team. Nick's got great sources. Okay, last one here, Nick. Just I feel like this is almost a weekly question now. Still Jameis and Tamus right now, or Jameis and Taysom, right? Or Tamus, just to combine them. Is there any other quarterbacks on the Saints' radar right now?
I don't think so. It kind of feels like it's Jameis running well ahead of the pack right now. It's almost crazy to hear how reckless, and I use that word, but like it is a little bit like Sean's talking reckless about Jameis out here, just about how good he's been in practice. And he did a Yahoo podcast where he was just kind of, drolling over his ability to throw the ball like 50 yards down the field in practice. And, it was funny to hear Sean say that because, like, there were throws in training camp and just talking to your dad, Bobby, like, we stand together at practices quite a bit. And, like, there's just throws, like, we look at each other like, wow, like, because Jameis can hit throws that other people on this team just don't hit. Like watching Drew, he's never been an arm strength monster. Taysom's okay, but like
Taysom's deep ball leaves a lot to be desired.
I was trying to be nice, but there was this one throw in one practice. It was an indoor practice at the Superdome, and they're playing cover 2, and it's Malcolm Jenkins and Janoris Jenkins, and Deontay Harris is like going up the sideline, and it's like 42, 43 yards, and they're closing in on him in the cover 2. It's like a bracket on him, and James just drops the ball right in. And like there were just moments like that you see in those practices where he's different, and I don't think that's really up for debate. We all know that he has all the tools, all the arm strength, and it's just the mentality that needs to come together. But there's things about him that obviously make him extremely attractive to this team. The one thing I worry about is you look at Taysom, and when everything's perfect for Taysom, it's great. He goes in the game, he operates the offense. He'll have people convinced that he can be a pocket passer. And looking at it like that, I almost understand how the Saints were so sold on him because in practice, you aren't going to see things get dirty.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to get out of the pocket, extend plays. So I wonder if Jameis in practice in this, very sterile environment is doing things and then he'll get into the game and it'll change up a little bit on him. That would be my one concern, but there's really no way to find that out until he gets in there.
Nick Underhill, at Nick_Underhill. Again, sign up for New Orleans Football if you're a Saints fan. It is so worth it, Nick. Thank you so much, man.